Hello everybody. This is Sala and here we have a brand new course on JSON. In this course, you are going to master JSON. You will learn JSON rules, structure, data types, etc. But writing JSON is not enough. You also need to know what is JSON, why do we and where we use JSON, what are some other alternatives of JSON like XML, and what is the difference between JSON and XML. So in this course, you will also get the answer of all these questions. I will also introduce you to some online resources where you can validate your JSON and store your JSON for some time. We will prepare a JSON document with all the data types and the nested types, and once the document is ready, we will use it in the JavaScript. The JavaScript is another very short part of this course in the end where we will try to read JSON using the JavaScript. JSON, as you know, is platform independent and we can use any programming language to work with the JSON. I have chosen JavaScript because of the simplicity. Using the JavaScript, it's very easy to handle the JSON in the code. But our focus will always be on the JSON, not on the JavaScript. JavaScript we are using just as a tool to read the JSON out and apply some operation on the JSON data. That's it. Now, without any further ado, let's start the course. Like I said, there are some questions we need to answer before we go further. Question number 1, what is JSON? Question number 2, why was JSON created? Question number 3, difference between JSON and JavaScript object. And the question number 4, where is JSON issues? Let's have the answer of these questions one by one. Let's answer the first question. What is JSON? JSON is an acronym and it stands for JavaScript Object Notation. The JSON means JavaScript Object Notation. JSON has JavaScript in its name, but it has nothing to do with the JavaScript. As I told you earlier, JSON is neutral. JSON is language independent data format. A question might come in your mind, why do JSON carry JavaScript in its name? It's a very valid question and I will answer it in the coming slides. JSON is just a data file. You will only have data in the JSON file. Even you cannot put comments in the JSON file. So JSON is just a technique to format data. That's it. The biggest advantage of JSON is it's very easy for the human to read and write, as well as for the computers to parse and translate. Its syntax is much simpler than the others like XML. And the last, JSON is language independent. You can use JSON data file in any language you want like C#, Python, JavaScript, PHP, etc. Our next question is, why was JSON created? Let's have the answer. Before JSON, XML was used as data file and for data interchange. Problem with the XML is its syntax is verbose. Verbose syntax means it takes more characters to define a thing. So drawback with the XML is its verbose syntax, and because of that, XML is not easy for humans to read and write and easy for machines to parse and translate. So the main reason for the creation of the JSON is to provide a simpler alternative to the XML for exchanging data between a server and a client. So JSON was created in early 2000 and it was designed as a lightweight text-based data format. Let's have a comparison between the XML and the JSON. On the screen, you see both are trying to define a user. If you look at the syntax, you can easily realize the XML syntax is verbose. It uses more characters, HTML tag-like characters to define the fields. On the other hand, you see the JSON doing the same thing, but the syntax is much simpler and easy to read and understand. That was the reason JSON was created, a lightweight data format which is easy to write, read, and understand. The creator of the JSON is Douglas Crockford, a legendary JavaScript developer. You can read more about it. You can read more about his profile on the internet. Our third question is, what is the difference between JSON and JavaScript object? And here you will get the answer of the question, why do JSON carry JavaScript in its name? On the screen, you see a JavaScript object and JSON data. They look very similar, right? And that is why JSON carries JavaScript's name. JSON has simply borrowed JavaScript object syntax and then developed it further with more characteristics. There are 3 key differences between the JavaScript object and the JSON you need to remember and keep in the mind. The first difference is all the keys in the JSON should be string. They must be inside the double quotes. JavaScript object and the JSON both have the same structure. The data is defined or collected as keys and values. However, the keys in the JavaScript are normal but in the JSON, this should be a string. So that was the first difference. The second difference is any property of the key in the JavaScript object can have a reference to the function. That simply means you can code a JavaScript function as a value to the object. But in JSON, you cannot do that. JSON is simply data format. The last difference is about the comment. In the JavaScript file, you can simply put comment. However, in the JSON file, comments are not allowed. Now we know the difference between the JSON and the JavaScript object. Let's move on. Our last question is, where is JSON used? And the answer is, in this modern era or modern web development, you will find JSON everywhere. Data is sent and received in JSON format when we call the APIs. In most of the new and cutting-edge technologies, configuration files are designed using JSON. For example, in the React application, you can see configuration files are based on JSON. You can also use JSON to store data and for sending and receiving data from web servers, right? So JSON data format is actually everywhere in this modern web development era. Now we know the answer of basic questions. What is JSON? Why was JSON created? Difference between JSON and JavaScript object, and where is JSON used? That's great. Let's move on and let me introduce you to some online resources we will be using in this course. The online resources we will be using in this course are JSONLint and JSONBin. JSONLint is a JSON validator. Using that, we can validate our JSON. And JSONBin is an online JSON store. We can save our JSON for some time and call the data of the JSON data using the API link. Let's have a look at both of them one by one. Open a web browser and in an empty tab, you will search for JSONLint, press enter, and here we have the link of the validator, JSONLint.com. Let's click on it. So on the JSONLint, we can validate as well as improve the formatting of our JSON. This is the editor where we can directly write or just paste our JSON. And to validate it, we will simply click on this validate JSON button. So let's create a very simple JSON in order to check this validator. So here we have a very simple JSON with three keys, name, age, and title. Title is an array. Now click on the validate to see if our JSON is free from the errors or not. Click on the validate and here you see the output. The JSON is totally valid. Now let's say I remove this trailing comma. Now our JSON has error. As you can see, the error is at line 2 and we are missing end of file character. And this is the comma in our case. Let's put the comma back like this. And now I will remove its square bracket, try to validate, and here comes the error. The error is on line 6 and we are missing this character, the large bracket. So let's put it back. So JSONLint is a good tool to validate the JSON, and it also improves the formatting and indentation. Down there, you have an option compress. This option will simply put your JSON on a single line. So let's compress the JSON, and here you see the output, right? Your JSON on a single line. So that was a JSONLint, and the second tool is JSONBin.io. So in an empty tab, I will search for JSONBin.io, and here is the link. For the online store, JSONBin.io will simply store your JSON online in a cloud and will give you an API link. And using that link, you can simply call your JSON in your program. We will use the free version of JSONBin.io, and for that, I must choose the option Quick Create JSON. This is the quick store of JSONBin.io. If you want to come directly to this page, so you can search JSONBin Quick Store and you will be directed directly to this page. In the free version, we can have our JSON available for some time. The maximum time is 24 hours. We will start by putting our JSON here. This is our JSON. We can also give this JSON file a name, for example, info, and here we will choose the expiry time. For example, I want to keep my JSON online for 24 hours. And then I have only 100 reads or 100 API calls to my JSON. So this free version has its limitation when it comes to the API calls and the expiry time. But in our course, we are good with this initial setup. Now press on the create bin and here you will get your API link. This is your API link, and using that link, you can simply call or read your JSON in applications or programs. For example, using the fetch API in the JavaScript, you can retrieve its data. Let's now copy this API link and open another empty tab and press the link, and you can see your JSON is retrieved in the browser, right? JSONLint and JSONBin both are good resources, and we will use them in our course. Let's now move on, and it's now time for the practical work. We are going to create a JSON file. In this course, I will be using Visual Studio Code, but you can choose any code editor you want. You can even code your JSON online. It won't make any difference as long as you are following this course and learning the concepts. Let's now create a JSON file. JSON file must have its own extension, and that extension is .json. We will first start by the name. Let's say the name of the file is course.info.json. So it's important with the extension. Don't miss the extension .json. Now press enter, and here you see your newly created brand new JSON file. So now we know how to create a JSON file. Choose a name and put the extension in the end .json. Now we will write a complete JSON with all the variations, and our JSON represents course information data. The entire JSON object is always enclosed in curly braces, and I want you to note this point down, right? So JSON object is always inside this curly braces sphere. This is a part of the syntax, and you cannot mess with it. The second important point you need to remember here is key and value. The data is organized in key value structure. Every key value pair must have a trailing comma, and that comma is used to create the separation between the key value pairs. Only the last key value pair is left without the trailing comma because there is no other pair after that. Another important point you need to remember here is all the keys are strings in JSON. They must be inside the double quotes, right? So these are the points you need to remember. And now the data type. JSON supports string, number, boolean, null, and array data types. And then we have advanced JSON structure. We can create nested JSON objects, and we can also create an array of JSON objects. So let's build a JSON, cover all the data types and the nested variations. And that is all. You just need to learn the use of the data types and the nested JSON objects. The first data type is the string type, and we know how to code a string in programming. So let's create the first key. The name of the key is course title. Course title. As you know, the key should be inside the double quotation mark. This is the requirement. Right after the key, we will put a colon, and here we will code the string data. Its strings are also coded inside the double quotations, and we know that, right? So the string value is mastering JSON and JSON JavaScript. Don't forget to put the trailing comma, and now press enter. So we have simply created our first JSON property with a key, code title, and the value mastering JSON and JSON JavaScript. The data type of the value is string type. Now create another string key, and the name of the key is description. It holds the description of the course, and the value is a complete course on JSON and JSON in JavaScript, trailing comma, and press enter. Let's have another key, author, and here I'm going to insert my name, Salar Akska, Zada, trailing comma, and press enter. So this is how we code string type values in JSON. Let's move on. The next data type is number. Let's have a key name age limit, and here we will assign a number. For example, 18, trailing comma, and press enter. Everyone who is 18 and above can simply take this course. Let's create another key for the number, and the name of the key is price, and here we'll put a price, let's say $9.99. The number data type represents both the numbers, integers and floating point numbers, just like in the JavaScript. That was the number data type, and the third data type is the boolean data type, true and false. Let's now create a key. The name of the key is as discount, and assign it a value of false, trailing comma, press enter. We don't want to give a discount, so the value is false. Let's create another boolean key is publish, and here we will use a value true, the course is published. Another key is the course tree. Let's say the value is false. The code is not tree. So that was the Boolean data type. Simple as that. And now you can see and analyze the structure of the JSON. Format of the keys is always the same. The name of the key and double quotation mark. But on the right side, values can vary. Here we can use different data types. Now we have data type null. Null simply means nothing, no memory reference, right? We know that from programming. Now, for example, we can create a key prerequisite, and here we can assign null. We don't know about the prerequisite. Let's say there is no information about it. We exactly don't know about it. Trading comma, press enter. We can create another null value type. Let's say second course. After that, we don't know about it. So the value is null. Simple as that. These are the four basic data types: string, number, boolean, and null. And now we have array. A value can be an array and hold multiple values. Let's have an example on that. We will say our course has some tags or some keywords like JSON, web development, programming, JavaScript. So we can collect all these tags of the keywords simply in an array. Let's create a key, and the name of the key is tags. And this key will simply hold an array, right? The syntax of the array is the same as in the JavaScript. So here we have the first tag, and here we have second tag, third tag, development, and for example, IT course, and the last tag is JavaScript. Now we have added another data type in our JSON, which is array, and we have all the basic or primitive data types in our JSON file. We don't have more data types other than these 5 types. Now, what do we have more? Now we have complex types. Complex type simply means a key, a JSON key can hold a JSON object, a separate JSON object, and an array containing multiple JSON objects. Let's learn how do we create nested JSON object and why it is necessary. Nested objects increase the flexibility and divide a piece of data into multiple chunks so that we have access to each and every piece of information separately. For example, our next key is contact. I am a course owner and I will provide my contact information like address, telephone number, email, etc. And for that, the best choice is create nested JSON object because JSON object will further has keys and keys are easy to read and understand. I can also have an array like this. At the first index, I can put my email, second index, my telephone, third index, my address. This can also be done, but this practice is not good. And we have the opportunity to give the components a name using the keys, then why don't use it? This contact key will further hold a JSON object, and now we know our entire JSON object is inside this curly braces. So we are going to assign a curly braces like this, and we'll further develop our nested JSON the same way inside this contact key. Now let's say the first key inside the contact is email. So let me just provide a dummy email abc123@gmail.com. The second case is telephone. Let's have a telephone like this. In the third case, address. And let's say 123 Main Street, Udevara, Sweden. So you see an example of nested JSON. This JSON object is actually nested in the first one, right? And our data is more readable. Our values have names, email, telephone, and address. Now, inside this nested JSON, we can further make our data flexible. And here comes another twist. For example, let's just suppose on the web page, I want to publish my email and my country. How do I do that? Email data has a key. I can read this key out, but the country does not have any key. The only key is address, and when I read it out, I will get this entire string. And then I have to program further to extract the country name. So this is an extra job and extra burden. So why don't we make this address field more flexible or address key more flexible by dividing it into multiple chunks? And for that, we will code another nested JSON. So the address key holds actually another JSON. So here we have JSON, JSON object, inside JSON object, inside JSON object. The first key here is street, which is 123 main street. The second key here is city, which is Udewala. And the third key here is country, which is Sweden. That's it. I would see the flexibility. If I want to publish my whole address, I will use all the keys, street, city, and country. But if I only want to show my country, I will read only this key, country. So that was a great example of nested JSON and make each and every piece of data available to the user. That's great. And now we know how to write nested JSON. The last thing here is an array of JSON object. Let's put a trailing comma here. Now let's say the code has two different parts. The one part is JSON and the second part is JavaScript. Let's just suppose. So we are going to create a key course parts, and this key will simply hold an array like this, and inside that array we will create two JSON objects. So let's have, this is one JSON object, trailing comma, and here we have second JSON object. You know, array is an index based technique. So this key is actually an array or representing an array. On the index 0 we have this object, on index 1 we have these object. The first object will simply describe the first part of the course using the keys, and the second one will describe obviously the second part. Now let's say the first part has an ID, this is the first skill, and the value is 1, a number value, because this is the first part, so the value is 1. And the first part has a title, which is JSON fundamentals, and a boolean key is 3, which is false. And here comes an other twist. We also want to the user what are the topics we will cover in the first part. And for that, we code a nested array to collect all the topics. An array is a good choice here because topics doesn't need to have any key associated with them. Just see the structure here. Based on your data and the hierarchy of your data, you structure your JSON. We have an array outside, then a JSON object, and here we have another nested array inside this outer one. Now let's say the topics which are covered in this course is what is JSON, JSON, JSON syntax, JSON data types, JSON objects, and the last topic is, let's say, JSON array. Now put the trailing comma and press enter. We can also code instructor key, the course instructor. The course instructor is Sala. We can also have a course duration key. Let's say the course duration is 120 minutes. And the last one is maybe a rating key. The course rating is 4.5. We see a complete JSON object inside an array that defines the code section or the code part. And now the second part of the course, let's say the second part is about the JavaScript and JSON. Now the course ID is, this is the second part, so course ID is 2. Title is JSON and JavaScript. And now we have fees info. It's free, false, and here comes the topics. And once again, an array of topics. Now let's say the first topic is use of JSON in JavaScript. Read JSON, looping through JSON, JSON stringify, and JSON parse, trailing comma, enter, and once again, instructor, code duration, let's say 100 minutes, and the rating 4.8. That's great. So here we have a complete JSON with all the variables and all the variations. And we develop this JSON step by step. And now I will validate it. So copy the entire JSON object, open the JSONLint, and paste the entire JSON, and then click on the validate JSON button. As you can see, our JSON is valid. We don't have any error in our JSON. You can also see our JSON now has a better indentation. So we can copy this from here and paste it back in our editor. So delete the JSON and now paste the JSON we just copied from the JSONLint. So my friends, that was all about the JSON. We covered all the topics. Now the next thing here is use this JSON. Use this JSON object in a programming language. So let's move on and learn how do we do that. We will use JavaScript as I told you earlier. In our editor, we will simply drop a JavaScript file. So let's create a file, name it app.js. So here we have our JavaScript file and this is our JSON. We also need to open the terminal to see the output. Now down there, you see the terminal and here is our JavaScript. The best thing with the JavaScript is it can process the JSON without any complexity. All we need is just a normal JavaScript variable, let's say a quotes variable, to hold the entire JSON object. This quotes variable can be assigned the entire object. Now here is our object. Control A, select all, Control C, and then assign it to the quotes variable, just like that. So you see, we have our JSON, the entire JSON assigned to a variable, and using this variable, we can read out our JSON. We can read out properties, we can read out arrays, and we can read out nested objects. And how do we do that? We simply use the dot operator in order to call the properties or the keys. Now let's say I want to read out the course title, description, and author, and print the result in the console. So I will write console log. Course is the name of the variable, and here comes the course title. This is the first output, console.log, and course variable, course description, and console.log, course author. That's it. So we are reading out our JSON. We are reading out the properties. I can put a comment here. Read out properties. Now run the JavaScript file in the terminal. And so you see the output. The data is coming from the JSON. That was simple, right? To read out individual properties is not a big deal. We can also read out the entire object. The entire object is assigned to this quotes variable. So we can print this quotes variable in the console. That's it. Console.log and the quotes variable. Let's run the script. And here you see the output, right? The entire object in the console. That's good. Let's move on. Now I will show you how to read the array. For example, we have this tag array, right? Tags array. So this property tags actually representing an array, and we can confirm it. Read out array by index. Console.log codes.tags, right? Now you see, I will simply call the length property on it. You know, length property returns the length of the collection. Tags is a collection. That's why this property is accepted. So let's run the script. And so you see the output 5. The length of the tags array is 5. Now using the index value, we can simply print out any tag course of tags of, let's say, index 1. And we know at index 1 of the tags, it's programming. Now we see programming in the output as we run the script. Now you can see programming in the output. Okay, so that was how to read the array is using index. We can also look through the array and read out all the components. So on the course tags, we will simply call the for each loop and the function. Now we can simply print out all the tags. You will simply see the output course tags JSON, course tags programming, and so on. So let's now run the script. And here you see all the tags: JSON, programming, web development, IT course, and JavaScript. So looping through a JSON array isn't a big deal. And now nested JSON. Here we have nested JSON, right? Now let's say I want to display email and the country. The country is inside the address key and email is inside the contact key. Let's see how do we do that. Just build a connection. Course, contact, email. Simply that. And once again, console log. We build a connection, course, contact, address, and country, right? Country is inside the address key, and now you will see the address. I will see my email and the address. So here's the email and the address. Let's move on. The last thing here is objects in an array. So the course part is an array which contains two objects. So if we apply the link property on the course part, you will see the answer 2 because course parts has two components. So course parts length. Let's run the script. And here see the length is 2. And if I simply print the component at index 0, so the first component, this one, is simply returned to me. So let's run the script. Now you can see the first component in the terminal. We can also loop through the course part because course part is an array and extract the information from both the components of both the objects. Now let's say I wanna loop through the course part and will read out the ID, title, and code duration from both the objects. So let's do that. Course part is an array, so we can apply the for each loop on it. You can say part. And now we can simply build the output. That's it. In the first round, the loop will point to the first object and we will read out its ID, title, and code duration. In the second round, the loop will point out to the second object and we will do the same with the second object. Let's now run the script. And here you see the output. The ID of the first part is 1 and the title is JSON fundamentals and the course duration is 120. This is the ID of the second part, title of the second part, and here we have the course duration. So you see, reading out JSON using the programming language or especially using the JavaScript is not a big deal. So my friends, now we have also seen how to read out the JSON in a program. But last thing here is to call this JSON using the API. And for that, you must store your JSON on JSONBin so that you get an API link from the JSONBin site. And you know how to save JSON there and get the API link. So let me just show you very fast. Select all the JSON. Here we have JSONBin. Paste your JSON here. Give your JSON a name. For example, info course. Through the expiry time, 24 hours. Click on the create bin. And here you have your API link. Now copy this link and paste it in an empty browser window. Your entire JSON page is returned using this URL. Now you can use this URL in any programming language to read or fetch your JSON data. In JavaScript, you can simply do that using the fetch API. We are not going to code the fetch API, but you can search for it on the internet and do it by yourself. It's an advanced concept, asynchronous programming. You have to tackle down the response and then extract the data from the response. So your JSON is ready, API link is there, just use it in your programs. So my friends, that was a complete course on JSON, and I hope you learned something valuable from this course. Do tell me how was your experience. Write a comment under the video. I will appreciate it. I will see you around in some other tutorial or course. Thanks for watching.